Hi, I'm Eitan Pinsky at Pinsky Mortgages, and today we have with us
Anastasia Aurora.
And Akintemi.
And they have their own real estate team. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Do you want to go?
Oh yeah, sure. So we're with ACE Partners, and our goal is essentially to simplify the world of real estate and help our clients and buyers and sellers navigate reaching their financial goals and wealth goals through real estate.
Many of our clients, thank you. Many of our clients, sorry to interrupt, I didn't know you were going to say that.
I was just going to say our favorite thing is helping people build their legacy.
Our slogan is
Our
helping
slogan.
people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Let's build your legacy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ethan.
So today we're going to talk about the BCFSA, or British Columbia Financial Securities Agency, recommendations for making bidding easier, making buying and selling homes easier, which we don't always agree with, but they just came out, and we're going to go through each one line by line so you guys will be able to get a better sense of what they are and whether or not some of them may or may not be implemented. It seems like their recommendations are a little haphazard. So the first one, and I want to ask you guys what it means and what it is introduce a pre-offer period. So what is introducing a pre-offer period? They say that there should be a minimum of 5 days before an offer is accepted. What does that mean?
When a listing goes on the market, they're going to want to have maximum exposure, is the idea behind it.
Okay.
So what it is you will list your home, and then for 5 days, no one can make an offer or accept an offer. So it's essentially a 5-day showing period, which we kind of do already now in some senses in the industry.
I thought it was the case. So basically nobody can go in with a bully offer or an offer that says, hey, it's been in the market, I want to get in before everybody else, and they're just not allowed to do that.
They're trying to make it fair,
So
right?
what?
Would you add anything to that, Ray?
Yeah, I was going to say, so I think the intent, I would say, of that, again, theoretically, is that it allows every potential buyer the opportunity to do their due diligence up front. Again,
Okay.
I say theoretically because at the end of the day, sometimes this is things, when you have a good realtor, this is what you're already doing. You're going to do your due diligence up front. But right now, the intent from the BCFSA is to make this mandatory. So like she said, you have your listing. Once your listing's up, it also ensures that the listing agent ensures you have all the strata documents or any documents that need to be disclosed relating to the listing. That's ready on the upfront. And then every single potential buyer has 5 days to decide what they want to do with that information. So it's get inspections and things like that. And then you have to wait till 5 days from then on to put an offer.
So my concern with this is that it's compromising the free market in a sense. You're essentially telling someone who's a private owner what they can do with their property, if they can accept an offer or if they can't. And so there's that kind of optics in one sense. And then there's also, I think if people, because this is regulating realtors. So this is for, putting things on the MLS. So the listing market.
Interesting.
So one of the things that I personally think, and we were just talking about this, was sorry, I really say that. So let me reiterate.
No, it makes sense. So if somebody chooses not to go with a realtor, they could sell it in 1 day.
Well, you could either sell it in the private market, you could sell it like on Craigslist or something like that, but then you're not protected.
That's true.
With what, with what we're doing in terms of the disclosure of interest in trade, you're not protected in fiducial duties, knowing what your rights are and all of these things. And then also, you can still work with a realtor. I'd be happy to list your property, Eitan. Let's do an exclusive listing. So now it's not open, so you're actually taking away from the free market and from everyone having the opportunity, because now it's just, who knows who and who's going to get the job done. So in the sense, I don't really think this is, I get that they're calling this consumer protection. It's technically not meant to really help people get into the market or lower the prices, which unfortunately that's one of the biggest problems I personally have with it, is it's giving the optics that it's going to help people get into the market and get into the real estate market, but it's actually not.
The general theme I'm getting, again, that we're saying is the fact that this still raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So
How is it going to
ambiguous.
implement it?
It's ambiguous.
Exactly.
That's what
We're iffy. Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, we're iffy.
That's what happens.
All right, so number two.
In the free market.
Number two is
Yeah.
parameters of home buying protection. There's a protection period. And this is called the cooling off period. And the cooling off period was almost more important than the pre-offer period. The cooling off period is 3 days. The pre-offer period is 5 days. So it says here that the cooling offer period would be 3 days, intended to provide buyers with time to do their due diligence such as securing financing, doing their inspection, doing the seeking legal advice. So what do you think about having a mandatory 3-day off or a subject removal period?
In regards to the 3-day sort of, they call it rescission period, my understanding is this comes after you've had a subject removal, is my understanding. So you already have a firm deal, and then you still have a 3 days to sort of decide if,
so
that's how I'm understanding it.
Yeah, no, I you might be right,
Okay.
but how I understand is that everybody's required to have at least a 3-day subject removal period.
Okay.
See, it's so ambiguous.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
ambiguous.
no,
We don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
I think that
That's
it's a
crazy.
minimum of 3 days subject removal period for absolutely
Yeah.
everybody.
So if that's the case, then what's the point of the penalty? Because you're still trying to remove subject. What
It's
if you can't
redundant.
remove subjects?
Well, no,
You get
well, if
penalized
you
for not being able
can't-
to remove subject?
Yeah, that's a great question. Are you penalized for not
Yeah.
qualifying and you thought you could qualify? Interesting. So we
Yeah.
just don't
We just don't know, exactly,
Yeah,
'cause
sorry, I
that's-
guess
There's so
I
many
guess I
things
just
that are
went over
unknown,
it.
and
Exactly.
again, I think it's really important to remember that this is to protect consumers. This is a what do they call it? It's a homebuyer protection period. It's not, so these cooling off, these like different things that are happening, it's to protect the buyers under the guise of protecting. And so my question is it really protecting them?
really
And
protecting
how
them?
is it protecting them? Like, is it protecting them? Because a lot of times the protection that people are crying for help, right, is in terms of the money and
It's the
saving
pricing.
money.
How
It's
much?
the
Well,
cost.
saving money. It's
Yeah.
why are our prices so high?
Yes.
Supply and demand.
Yes.
If they really cared about things, they would make it easier for people to build.
Yes.
There's one other item: transparent bidding process recommendations. BCFSA recommends the implementation of disclosure of the number and the value, the actual number of the offers received by sellers where a buyer is asked to revise their offer in a multiple bid situation. So basically, when you're bidding and there's multiple people, they say that you actually have to offer the value, just like you were saying. And then this is interesting. Once a sale is completed, the BC regulator recommends that sellers disclose the value of other offers received to all prospective buyers who submitted an offer.
At the end of the day, it doesn't change the fundamentals of helping people get into the markets. The supply and demand issues are always there, but it does create this illusion of access to information. Again,
That's a good way to put it.
Well, it's not an illusion. It's
oh,
real
sorry,
access.
sorry, yes, real
But-
access to information. What you do with that information, we don't know. But I think there's value because again, in 2022, we can look up almost anything on the internet. So, and then there's a lot of these technology companies out there who are sort of providing some of this information. So if you have this available for people, like let's say you bid, and then you lost out on a property, you at least maybe you can understand the spread and how far you were from the final offer, and then how many people you're competing with. So then you have that information as a consumer or purchaser. So it helps in that sense.
Actually, you know what? I think that if you're currently in the market
Yeah.
and you're going to be offering on a property today and then
Mhm.
next week and the week after, and you can see how many people are bidding and how much they bid, actually, I think that,
You see a bit of a trend.
yeah, you can see a trend. I think that's good.
And I think there is a bit of an illusion. Like, I get what I think it's a bit of both. It's like an illusion and not an illusion because there's also so much more information than just the price, right? Because again, now we're just going back to the numbers. It's really interesting. Like, we could talk about this forever and not come up with an answer because they haven't even actually given us the full rules yet.
So we've talked about this for a
Yeah.
little bit over half an hour.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Oh, final thoughts. I would say there are some good things in terms of what they're looking to implement out of these three things. Because I do believe there is some protection for buyers, especially who are maybe brand new into the industry. So there are some good things there. But that being said, I think there's still a lot more questions than answers, so that we can actually understand how it's going to be impactful and helpful to buyers and sellers. And I would hope there's a bit more consultation of industry experts so that whatever protection they put in place is in alignment with how the industry practices, how the industry runs. And then the one thing I would say though is like people should need to understand that this still doesn't solve the fundamental reasons in terms of housing affordability and things
Not
like
at
that.
all,
It
yeah.
doesn't do that. So that doesn't mean there isn't good things there, but I think there's some good things, but people need to kind of understand that. And I think it's good. And at the end of the day, work with quality people, work with quality realtors, quality mortgage brokers who would educate you on the process, because this changes all the time.
Yeah.
And no matter what the rules are in place, if you have good people on your side, you'll be successful, you'll be protected. So that's what I would say.
Anastasia?
I think he pretty much sums it up. I would also just, I don't really think I'd add too much to that. This has been so great.
Thank you.
That's
So
awesome.
thank
Yeah.
you so much, Ray and Anastasia from ACE Partners, and me, Pinsky Mortgages, and thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.